Rachel Weisblatt was born and raised in Jerusalem, Israel, and began dancing at the age of 5. Rachel has continuously been involved in Jewish education at local synagogues, teaching Hebrew, Jewish history, preparing children for their bar and bat mitzvahs, and teaching Israeli folk dancing to both children and adults.
For nearly 2,000 years, Jews and Christians have been divided. But now, God is calling for the healing of past hurts and the comforting of His people. Discover how God is prophetically uniting Jews and Christians across the world today on The Crossover. And now, here are your hosts.
Yeah, there are many reasons for many of our songs and dances that have sources of wanting to praise God and to thank God for miracles and for helping Israel and remembering Israel. Beginning with biblical times, beginning with Miriam that sang and danced with songs of praise to God after watching the great miracle that had happened when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea on their way to freedom from slavery in Egypt. And throughout our history, there were many events and many biblical themes that were put to songs. Some of these songs are centuries old and put to dances that we sing and dance in praise of God.
Hi, my name is Adele Ownby and I live in Houston. I've been coming to dance with Rachel and the dancers here at Beth Yeshurun and Brit Shalom twice a week for about 7 years now. I first started right before they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Israel, and I got to dance with the group downtown for that. But it's such a joy. I can't tell you how I've been accepted as a Christian here in this group, and the friends that I have, the heartwarming experience it is, the way it feeds my soul to hear the words in Hebrew and to do the dances. I'm a dancer, so I really enjoy the dancing. I dance with a Christian group called Bereshit, Hebrew words that mean in the beginning, first 2 words of the Bible. And I'm just really, we take a lot of our steps from the Israeli dancing and a lot of the heart from there. And the idea that I am dancing the kind of dances that Jesus did really pleases me. I know that the wedding of Canaan, as a Jewish man, I'm just sure that Jesus danced. To be able to follow in that tradition is terrific. And the dancing too, Israeli dancing is the most exciting folk dancing in the world right now because the Israelites, the Jews have come from so many nations to come back to Israel. We have dances that have traditions in Russian dancing and Ethiopian drum music and Spanish dancing, just from all over the world, as well as the Middle Eastern sounds.
I started Israeli folk dancing when I was very young, in nursery school and kindergarten, and that's not unusual. Most Israeli kids dance Israeli folk dancing. Israeli folk dancing is very popular in Israel. Everybody is dancing, young and old. And when you grow up in Israel, it's part of the Israeli culture. So it was easy for me to get involved with Israeli folk dancing. And I probably got involved more than maybe other kids. I do remember that I enjoyed very much programs that were put together for celebrating holidays. For example, we used to celebrate the harvest holidays, where we would go outside of Jerusalem. The hills of Jerusalem were our stage and amphitheater, and we would dress all in white, the boys and the girls had wreaths of fresh flowers, and the parents were invited. Everybody was invited to come and see the performances. And I remember vividly when I was very young, I think I was in the 5th grade, when we came home and my mom was so excited and thought it was so beautiful. Somehow it really touched me, and I wanted more of that. And then throughout my whole life, I was always involved with Israeli folk dancing. In high school, we always have a performing group that performed and celebrated throughout Jerusalem mainly. And then I came to Houston at the end of the summer of 1976. And there was no Israeli folk dancing in Houston. So we started a group in Houston with like 3 or 4 people. But then I was amazed of how fast the group was growing. And we had a beautiful group of like 70 people that have been dancing since 1976, and we're still dancing. We have some great relationships that grew up out of this activity. There are many people, there are some Israelis and some Jewish people, and we have many Christian members in the group that love to come to the dancing and share many of the stories and experiences, and all the biblical themes are always touching to them. And we had built wonderful relationships, wonderful friendships. Many great friendships came out of this activity. Many of these great friends have been together for more than 10 years. Some of us have been together for 20 years or more than 20 years.
Actually, I became involved with Israeli dancing back in my childhood through a youth movement, but never pursued in my adulthood. And about 4 years ago, even though I was living here in the community in Houston, where there's a large Israeli community, I was really not as closely involved with the Israeli and Jewish community as much. And about 4 years ago, I had the urge and the yearning to reconnect with my roots again. And actually, in passing, I have observed Rachel and her dance group when they were still dancing in the other hall at Beth Yeshurun. And I was saying to myself, one day I'm going to join the group. I was dancing, swing dancing and other kinds of dancing, but I really wanted to go back to my roots. So about 4 years ago, I chose to come back and actually join with another friend of mine. And we were really green, and Rachel took her upon her wings, and pretty much we were the little ducklings following her for quite some time because we were so insecure. And for a long time, I was just enchanted by the music and the movements, and I was just filled with awe and admiration. First of all, to Rachel because of her enthusiasm, dedication, admiration, and also because of her warmth and love and welcoming to everyone. It really brought tears to my eyes many times. Hearing songs that I haven't heard for years. Sometimes I was paralyzed because I couldn't dance. I was just enchanted by the music, and it's just a very welcoming family.
I'm Jewish. I have roots in Israel. That's one reason this Israeli dancing touches me so much. My mother was a Sabra. She was born in Sfa, Israel, and as soon as I came, I was born here, of course, and all of my siblings were born here. And I started Israeli dancing, I think, at the 25th anniversary of Israel. So it's been quite a few years, and it's really been just one of the big pleasures of my life.
I've been dancing with Rachel 21 years, since 1984.
And what drew you to dancing, doing Israeli dance?
I actually was introduced to Israeli dance in the 1970s when my husband at the time was in the physics department. We got to know some of the Israelis who came to this country to get their PhDs, and one of the people there had large records of Israeli music, and they started inviting us to Shabbat dinners, which really touched our hearts. And we at the end of a dinner, they would push the chairs back and they would sing and sing songs about the land of Israel, and then they would put the records on and teach simple Israeli dances. That was the beginning.
So you're Jewish then, and so you know about this?
I'm not Jewish, I'm not, but I feel such a love in my heart for Israel and for the Jewish people.
Part of the reason why I dance is because it is a athletic thing that it's good for, for everyone to be athletic. More importantly, it's also important for us to be doing something that's Jewish. You can go to the gym anywhere, whatever. But for me, it was always important to go and do Israeli dancing because of its importance as a Jewish thing to do. I happen to be a member of the Chevra Kadisha, but that's something that most people choose not to do because it's not fun. This, on the other hand, is something anybody can do with even no talent, and it's great. It's two opposites ends of the extremes. We're doing dancing because thank God we're still alive, and then for the burial, it's something that's also that we can do the end of life, as it were.
We will be right back.
I'm Jim Becca. I've been a journalism teacher for many years, and actually I wrote my first newspaper story in 1973. And I've seen the world change a whole lot in that time, covering a lot of different stories. But one thing that upsets me a little bit, and this is what I teach my students, is that truth can never be bested by falsehood in the public arena. But what happens when so much of what you see in the media is not the truth, and it's overbearingly, blatantly bad or anti-good? And that's why I was really concerned. That's why I think that the crossover can be a powerful instrument in reaching people, because it's actually proclaiming the truth, the positive side of a lot of different things, and reaching out to people.
For nearly 2,000 years, Jews and Christians have been divided. But now, God is calling for the healing of past hurts and the comforting of His people. Discover how God is prophetically uniting Jews and Christians across the world today on The Crossover. The Crossover exists to communicate to the Jewish community that there is a growing group of Christians who love them unconditionally. The focus of the Crossover program is to promote a greater understanding of the differences and similarities between Jewish and Christian customs, history, and theology, while encouraging a closer walk with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As a second-generation Holocaust survivor, Rosalie's Jewish heritage includes parents who were protected from the Nazis by Christians. Yet for more than a decade, Mitch and Rosalie searched for meaning in life in the New Age movement. But after returning to their Judeo-Christian roots, they discovered God's purpose for their lives: to rebuild bridges between Christians and Jews. Now through TV, radio, the internet, speaking engagements, the healing room, and print and video resources, they are reuniting Jews and Christians in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Join Mitch and Rosalie as they tackle tough topics and welcome dynamic guests on The Crossover.
They're one of the few organizations that actually understands the background of why Jesus did what He did, because they're from a similar background, and that's what the world really wants at this particular time.
For more information on The Crossover and The Crossover Project, contact Rosalie Jerome at 832-287-5057 or visit us on the web at www.thecrossovertv.org.
Lord God of Abraham, Isaac and Israel.
Welcome back to The Crossover.
Many people say that it's good exercise for your body and your brains because the music is very enjoyable and there are a lot of energetic steps. And because of the complicated patterns sometimes, not all the dances, some of the dances are easy and have easy patterns, and then others are more challenging, and the ones that are more challenging, people feel that it's also exercise for the brain.
And I'm over 70 years old, and today we celebrate 29 years house Rachel in business. And dancing is beautiful. If you will come, you will enjoy it. It is very nice group of people, nice dancing, and look like therapy.
And I would like to say one more thing. Anybody who would like to exercise their mind and their body should come to Israeli dancing, because each dance is choreographed separately. And remembering the steps and where they belong with the music is both a physical and a mental challenge.
They're also telling the story of Israel and of the Jewish people, beginning with biblical times to the present day. And our story is a very long story, and this is probably why we have so many dances and songs. Many of these dances are talking about love, love between people and God, love between people and people, a man and a woman, parents and children, friends. And many of these songs and dances are expressing love to the land and love of freedom and of coming back to the homeland, to the land of Israel. And again, after 2,000 years of exile, coming back and living as a free nation in the land of Israel, which has been a long dream of the Jewish people for 2,000 years. Every year at Passover, they always said, Leshana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. And in all the prayers, we're always mentioning coming back to Zion, coming back to the land of Israel, and living as a free nation. We're very fortunate that in our lifetime, we get to see the Jewish people living in Israel as a free nation. And there are many Israeli folk dances that express this joy, that express the freedom, that expresses the love of living in the land of Israel. Israeli folk dancing is very rich in its variety of music and dance. And this comes because of the many different sources. This is a very big melting pot of cultures, of music and of dances. We have one group of dances that are Hora dances. Hora is a family name of a group of dances that are usually very energetic and very joyous. And it probably started in modern time with the pioneers that came to Israel more than 100 years ago. Many of them came from Eastern Europe to rebuild Israel. And they had no money. They were poor, they were hungry, and conditions in Israel were very bad. The country, most of the country was desert-like, and in the north we had swamps, and they had to fight the desert, then they had to fight the swamps. People were dying of malaria, and this was really a tough time. The only way that they could pick up their spirit and support each other was in the evening getting together with songs and dances. And they would dance the Hora. They would just have several simple steps of Hora, and they would dance the Hora over and over and over for hours. And those dances have lifted up the spirit of these people and brought togetherness. This was a great support to these people. There are many Hora dances of modern time, of today, that express again love to the land, the joy of the harvest, celebrating holidays. There are many other cultures that have influenced Israeli dancing. The Yemenite Jewish people that came from Yemen had brought with them their very delicate, light steps. And this is because when they lived in exile, they were very unhappy living outside of Israel and always dreaming about coming back to the homeland. They were the very early Zionists that throughout history would come to Israel on camels and on donkeys. And these people brought their culture, their music, and their steps. Their steps are very light, hardly touching the ground, because when they lived in exile, they did not want to strike roots in the land. They were dancing or walking or living on hot coal and did not want to step with a heavy foot on the soil, on the ground. And this is why their steps are very light steps, and their body was always nice and straight, and they were very light people. They were very slim people, most of them. And then we have influences of the Hasidic dances that came from Eastern Europe. Those kind of music and dances were more religious songs and dances, celebrating holidays, celebrating bar mitzvot, celebrating weddings. Their costumes were different. They were more conservative costumes. And of course, they were dancing with shoes. Shoes was part of their costumes. When you look at modern contemporary Israeli today, you'll see beautiful costumes, and the dancers are dancing barefooted. And this is because they're barefooted because they want to express and show the love to the land, and they want nothing between their foot and the land. And this is why you'll see beautiful costumes, but no shoes. And then we also have the Debka dances, which originally were men line dances. They were farmers' dances that loved the soil and always have thanks to give for the good harvest. They wanted to be close to the earth. They wanted to show their love to the earth. And their dances and their steps were heavy on the ground. And of course, we have the contemporary Israeli folk dances of today that tell about life in Israel today. And there we have great variety too. Some of them are sad and slow, expressing the pain that the country is going through, pain from not having peace, pain from having to deal with terrorism. My own family was hurt by terrorism. My niece was murdered by a homicide bomber. And every time that we go through songs that express the pain and the loss of our young children, of course, it touches me deeply, but I can see when we dance in the circle that it's touching everybody, even people who don't even know personally the people that lost their lives, but they feel the sadness and they feel the pain through the music and through the steps. Many people in our, I'd say half of our dancers are not Jewish. They're American, many of them are Christians. And even though they don't understand the words sometimes, they can tell just by the music. Sometimes they come to me and they say, I feel this and I feel that from the music. And it is amazing to me sometimes the great messages that they can get just from the music without even knowing the words and the Hebrew. And then there are always happy songs, just like the songs that helped the pioneers when they were struggling, when they were tired and when they were hungry. Today we're not hungry, but we are hungry for peace. And there's a lot of tension, the country is suffering, and I think that this is probably also why Israel is producing so many beautiful songs and so many beautiful dances. I think it's also a way of supporting each other, of picking up the spirit, of giving hope, of trying to show each other that we can still have good life despite the fact that we have no peace and that we are suffering, that we have suffered great losses. And we have many songs, hundreds and hundreds of songs that are songs about peace. We will never give up the hope for peace. No matter what we go through, peace must come, and we shall never give up the hope for peace. And all the school children are getting these messages through school, through all the activities, through poetry, through books, that someday peace will come. And we have to hold on until that time comes. And all this is expressed through our songs and our dances. Yes, I recently read a very interesting article in the Jewish Herald about an Arab, a Palestinian terrorist, an ex-Palestinian terrorist who married a Christian and have changed his religion. And since he became Christian, he started to look at things differently. And one of the things that was very interesting to me was that, among other things, he said that while he was a terrorist with the rest of the Arab terrorists, they could not believe how the Israelis, when they were forced to go into war, they were going into war singing songs of peace. They just could not understand it. How can you go to war and you sing songs of peace? That was very interesting to me. I had this lady who called from a church outside of Houston that called me and told me that she had quite an interesting story. She was very sick with cancer. And she made a vow. She spoke to her minister at their church and made a vow that if she lives to see her daughter's wedding, to participate in her daughter's wedding, she wanted to have Israeli dancing at her daughter's wedding. This church and this minister have never had such dancing at their church. It was probably not allowed. It was unheard of. But the minister have made this agreement with the mother, and no one else knew about it. And now she called me and told me the story, and she said that this was a miracle for her, that she lived through this cancer, and now she's about to celebrate her daughter's wedding. And she asked if my husband and myself will go and lead Israeli dancing. And I thought this was quite a story. So, of course, I said I will do it. And we went there, and no one knew. I felt a little bit uncomfortable because I felt the bride and the groom should at least know what's going to happen. Well, we got there, and there were many people sitting around the hall. And the minister got up and talked and was telling everybody of the story, the vow that the woman made, that if she lives through her cancer, if she recovers from the cancer and managed to live to see her daughter's wedding, there'll be Israeli dancing. And he introduced me, and I went into the center of the room and asked people to get up and join hands. They were quite frozen. They didn't know how to react. And the minister said, "We're asking everybody to get up and join hands, and please listen to the instructor. Follow the instructor." They all got up, and they were just wonderful. They followed my directions, and it turned out to be a very happy occasion. We lifted the bride on a chair and the groom, and everybody was dancing around. It was a very joyous occasion, and my husband and I were really touched by it.
I started to come dancing in 1989 and haven't stopped since. And I always told Rachel that coming to dancing for me is like having a party every week. And after a long day at work, stressful, I would still drag myself over here. And when I left here, I felt completely renewed.
I teach 2 dance classes. One is every Monday night from 8 o'clock until 10. And every Tuesday morning from 11:15 until about 1:15. These classes are in Southwest Houston. And if you'd like to get more information, you can call 713-826-7503.
Join Mitch and Rosalie as they reach an ever-growing worldwide audience through the crossover. We invite you to become a crossover partner right now by calling the number on your screen. For your monthly gift of $30 or more, you will receive the Crossover Partnership Pack, which includes a DVD of today's program, a monthly ministry report, and your name will be added to the Healing Room. Call now or log on to our website and join the growing family of Crossover Partners.